How important is it to forgive?
So if you're willing to forgive and you overcome the emotion, you'll take your attention off the person. Where we place our attention is where we place our energy.
Check, check one, check, check.
Someone like Joshua has been through so much in their life where an objective observer would say it is warranted that they might be living in a state of victimhood. How important is it to forgive?
I think it's really one of the fundamental things that keep us alive. I mean, forgiveness to me is just overcoming the emotion. That's it. And like if you overcome the emotion, the side effect of that is that your heart will open. That's exactly what happens. And when energy moves into the heart, we start releasing different chemicals than when we feel angry or when we feel victimized or when we feel sexual. It's just a different chemical elixir. And oxytocin is released. And oxytocin signals nitric oxide. And nitric oxide signals another chemical that causes the arteries in your heart to literally dilate. The heart gets filled with energy. It's engorged with blood. And when that occurs, the oxytocin levels that you're feeling, the love that you're feeling, the studies show that when oxytocin levels are just elevated a little bit, it's really hard to hold a grudge. You just can't, right? So if you're willing to forgive and you overcome the emotion, you'll take your attention off the person or the problem, right? Because the stronger the emotion we have, the more we pay attention to our problems or the person, right? Overcome the emotion, you no longer have your attention on that person. And in a sense, you're taking energy and you're calling it back to you, right? So you're building your own field. And so love is the elixir that allows us to forgive. In other words, you can't say, I'm going to forgive you. It's January 31st or February 1st. Remember this day, we got a thing, I forgave you. That's not like forgiveness. When people really have that feeling of pure love, where they've actually gotten over the emotion, they've already forgiven. They're like, I'm totally cool. I'm great. You great, I'm great. Like, so it's a side effect of a change, because if the stronger the emotion we feel, the more we pay attention to that person. Where we place our attention is where we place our energy. Okay, overcome the emotion, you no longer have your attention on that person, you're calling energy back to you and you're building your own field. And there's energy now to heal. There's energy now to create. There's energy now for the mystical experience. And so you can't do that if you're feeling frustrated or if you're feeling anger, if you're feeling resentment. You'll always hold the grudge. You have to convert. You have to teach a person how to get into that elevated state. And the side effect of that is forgiveness. It's not something that you have to do. It's just something that automatically happens.
It's really clicking with me that when he talks about elevated emotion, and you have to understand what that elevated emotion is and that feeling and the oxytocin in the brain and the heart and the arteries and all that stuff. And I'm going to go back 8 months ago, a year ago, in our life when I taught myself to give myself goosebumps on demand, at will. And I'm listening to this tonight and him describe that, and that's what that is. So it makes sense to me, and I'm going to try and articulate that hopefully real fast. When you feel love and you get spring fever, I'm just trying to layman this down a little bit. And you get spring fever, and there's something in the air, right? Somebody touches your arm, and it gives you tingles. It gives you goosebumps.
And it's warm, and I can still feel that even after you pull your hand back.
But a lot of times that touch, if you really care about that person, it'll give you goosebumps. It will. So what is happening when that happens? The touch causes an
Elevated emotion.
elevated emotion, and your brain produces the chemicals that gives you the goosebumps. So if you can do that on demand, and I was trying to just get my old skin flat here because I can do it on demand, right? So if I just, it just comes through me, and look at, well, I can't see it on the camera way over there, but I get these little pock marks.
I can see them.
Okay, so that's, like, look at that. Like, it's crazy. And actually my hair will move because my pores are tightening, right? That's my brain
Making that happen.
making the chemical. It's the chemical. So him talking about how do you teach people to do that, and that correlation of that. So your brain's producing the chemical, the same chemical that he's talking in this video about forgiveness. Because when you fill your heart with that energy center,
There's no room for the anger, the resentment, the
nothing.
hatred.
and it's just like you get that. I'm doing it right now. Like I feel like my eyebrows are moving.
Well,
look at that. Look at that.
And the
Right?
thing about forgiveness is you need to forgive these people for yourself, because it's such heavy baggage carrying it around, the anger, the hatred, the resentment. How could you did.
Yeah.
You have to do that for yourself. Once again, it's focusing it inward and being the best person that you can be, making that change for you, and letting go of that, letting go of the familiar past that's filled with all the negativity, the negative energy that just sucks everything out of you.
Right. And right. They're empty words for the large part of our lives, right?
They're empty words, but they're not empty feelings.
Right. But I mean, because we say these things that we need to know how to do it, or we should do it, we should release and let go and yada, yada, yada. But nobody tells you how, right? Because I just so pissed off at that person, right?
They're dead to me.
It just owns you. Let's watch a little more of this, because I know Steven asks a good follow-up question.
When we think about forgiving people that have wronged us, our dad when we were younger, that person at work, the boss that fired us, or even something that happened that's significantly worse, it almost feels like a justification or an acceptance of what happened to us, which makes it feel like there's an injustice in the world. Like if I forgive that person, I'm letting them off.
Yeah.
Do you think we should always forgive everybody in all circumstances?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because, you free yourself. The only way you're going to free yourself from that person or from that past experience is for you to literally overcome the emotion. So, God, we've all had people do really horrible things, and we've probably done some horrible things to people as well. But I don't think you can free yourself or free them unless you decide that, love is going to be the thing that heals it. And God, so many people do it in our work, and the side effect of it is that they have wonderful effects in their lives, many times just healing.
There is a chronic stress in society that seems to be going in one direction. It seems to be going up and up and up. And I was wondering if that ties into the subject of burdens we're carrying from our past that are keeping us elevated in ways that are suboptimal.
Yeah, well, God, what a crazy time to be alive right now. I mean, there's so many things happening in such a short amount of time. I mean, it's almost overwhelming. Every day there's something happening. And, so living in stress is living in survival. The problem with the stress hormones is that the arousal that's created from the stress hormones causes us to move into these higher brainwave states called beta brainwave states. We're aroused, and the arousal causes us to pay attention primarily to all the things in our outer world. The arousal causes us to put our attention on our body. It causes us to obsess and think about time. And so people get stuck in these high brainwave states. And I think the big challenge is if you understand that stress is when you're knocked out of homeostasis, when your brain and body are knocked out of balance, then your response or your reaction to people or circumstances in your life that you're chronically feeling on a regular basis is actually weakening the organism. Because when you turn on that emergency system, the fight or flight nervous system, because of the hormones of stress, and you move your body out of balance and it has no time to recover and turn back to balance, now you're headed for disease, because no organism can live in emergency mode for that extended period of time. The arousal creates a rush of energy and people become addicted to the stress hormones. They become addicted to those emotions. And so that now they need the people and the conditions and the circumstances in their life to reaffirm their addiction to the emotion. They need the bad job. They need the bad relationship. They need the traffic. They need the news, just so that they can stay in that emotional state. So then 75 to 90% of every person that walks into a healthcare facility in the Western world walks in because of emotional or psychological stress. That's the number one thing. So our emotional response to the conditions in our life then becomes the important element. So people think, oh my God, when I'm emotional, I can't control my emotions. And it turns out you can regulate. It turns out you can shorten the response period from emotions, and it takes practice, right? So you could have the most ketogenic, vegan, organic, peptide, whatever, intermittent fasting diet, and you could do yoga, and you can do cardio, and you can do HIIT training, and foundation training, and whatever. Get massage, acupuncture. But if you're an emotional wreck, and you can't, if there's three types of stress, physical, chemical, and emotional, then there's three types of balance, physical, chemical, and emotional. If you got your body in physical balance and chemical balance, and you're not putting it in emotional balance, these will never stay. Mm-hmm. So then the important element then is teaching people how to shorten the refractory period of their emotional responses and catch themselves when they're feeling those emotions and change it, and not rely on anything outside of them to do it, a video game or a drug or whatever people do. Teach them that they have the tools to do it themselves. And if they understand that they're addicted to those emotions, I've seen this thousands of times. There's always an aha moment, like, I'm addicted to anger? Like, really? Oh my God, maybe I am. Now, the moment you recognize that, oh my God, I'm using that person to reaffirm my addiction to anger. Oh my God, like I don't want to feel anger. Okay, well, an addiction is something that you think you can't stop. Addiction is doing something that you know isn't good for you, and you're doing it anyway, right? So if these emotions are addictive, then I'm going to probably go through withdrawals. I've probably overdosed a few times. I've probably had a couple bad trips. Okay, so let me get really clear, like, how am I going to change this? So if the change is to be greater than your body, your environment, and time, and when you live in stress and you live in survival, all your attention is on your body, your environment, and time, it means that when we're living in stress, it's really hard to change, mm-hmm. because it's not a time to change. It's time to run, fight, and hide, right? So teaching people how to break those emotional addictions is the side effect of that is called joy. A person is no longer tormenting their body and keeping it out of balance. And many people who heal in this work, they don't say, oh, I'm gonna heal this health condition. They'll say, the first thing I'm gonna do, and this is the majority of them, is I'm gonna work on getting my body back into homeostasis. Like, I'm gonna work on regulating my emotional states. I'm not gonna react in this way. I'm not gonna respond this way. That's the work right there. Is breaking those emotional addictions so that we can move out of survival. And in survival, it's not a time to create. In survival, it's not a time to meditate. It's not a time to close your eyes and go within. You'd be eaten. It's not a time to be vulnerable. It's not a time to open your heart, right? And yet we got to work with our bodies and be able to recondition them to a new mind. And so a lot of the work that we do, especially during this time in history, where everybody's feeling the pressure, the environmental pressure of stress, is to give people the tools to be able to self-regulate. And when I mean self-regulate, that means move from one emotional state to another emotional state. And it's not bad that we react. We all react. I react. But the question is, how long? Like, how long are you going to react for? Because if you keep doing it for months or years, it ultimately becomes your personality, right?
Yeah. And it has a big impact on your immune system. I've noticed that when I'm in a state of prolonged reaction, negative reaction to something, it only takes a couple more days for me to get a flu or a cold or something. And bloody hell, like, because I don't get sick often. So I think I get sick, kind of like I am now, maybe twice a year. And so it's very easy. It's almost like a shock. And then it's very easy for me to trace my steps and see what brought me here. So this happened. My response was this. 8 days later, I felt my immune system go. Because I get sick so rarely, it's so unbelievably clear what happened to me. If there's no like, oh, I touched something and then the germs got in my mouth. For me, it's so clear in my life. So yeah, that's kind of what I want to do, is I want to stop that happening.
Yeah. Well, look, how old are you?
I'm 32.
32, my God, you're doing great. I mean, if you figure this out now, by the time you're 40, you'll have it mastered. So we did a study where we had people stop feeling survival emotions for 3 days and have them practice feeling elevated emotions, heart-centered emotions. We measured a chemical called IgA, immunoglobulin A. It's your body's natural flu shot. It's actually better than a flu shot. And so we measured people's IgA levels at the beginning of this time, and then we measured them at the end. At the end of 3 days, by trading those limited emotions for more elevated emotions, their IgA levels went up 50%. 50%. So when you're feeling an elevated emotion, the body's so objective that it's believing it's living in a nurturing and loving environment. And if the environment signals the gene, and it does, and the end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion, that person is signaling genes ahead of the environment. And now the body's going to make globulins, which are proteins that are going to create more internal defense and less attention on external defense. So the immune system then, which is the internal protection system, begins to move back into order.
What about routine in all of this? Is there value in having a strong routine? Because then when the winds blow, at least I'm anchored by something.
Yeah. I try to avoid that word because I think it conjures up a lot of beliefs for people. I think I'd like to say, if you can set aside a certain amount of time for yourself, just for yourself, to be alone with yourself. And for me, my routine is to have 2 hours in the morning. That's just my time. Like, that's my time where I'm going to get my brain and body right. It's a time where I'm going to think about the things I have to do in the day and how I'm going to be in my day. I get that all clear, and then I do my meditation. And my meditation is really for me to overcome myself and change and then create. And I don't care if you do it in the morning or in the evening. I'm a morning person. I've always been a morning person. I have friends that are artists and musicians, and even my kids. They're just more evening people. They're creative, so they like the evening. It doesn't matter to me. I just pick a time in your day where you can think about who you want to be and who you no longer want to be, and think about what you're going to change, and always make a little room for the unknown, which is the fun part, and get creative. Yeah. And so that's one of the things I'm proud of in our community. I'm really proud of the fact that people do the work. Like, everybody does the work. It's not like I have to make them do it. And when I ask them, why do you do it every day? Aside from the majority of saying that makes me feel better, they typically say, I don't want the magic to end. Like, there's too many good things going on in my life. Like, I want to keep doing this. It's working for me. So it's kind of not like I have to. It's a want to.
When we talk about routines, I think we've all been programmed to be in routine. You go on vacation or you're at a sink of your regular job, life, family. It'll be great to get back from holidays and we can be back in a routine. So you've already erased the fun of the holiday. You're already planning to the future, because Monday morning at 7:00, my alarm's going to ring. I'm going to go to work at 8:30. I'm going to be aggravated by noon. I'm so glad to be back at work. Not. And then you're just back in the rat race. It's living in the past. It's living in the familiar, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. You're letting somebody else control your life. Yeah. And he also speaks about setting time aside for yourself, which nobody does. I never set aside time for myself.
Yeah.
I was always doing for others, doing for my husband, my family, my job, my kids. You go to bed at night and you're absolutely exhausted. And
Because if you do spend time for yourself, you're called narcissist.
yeah, and you know what? Time by yourself is important. It's really important. And you should never feel guilty setting aside time for yourself and not being productive, because that is being productive. You deserve that.
When you go on vacation, going back to your earlier point here, let's say you're back to work Monday, right? Sunday's still a day, right? So we kind of start packing up Saturday night in our minds, right? Because we're getting back into the routine. 2
more sleeps and we're back in the rat race.
Right. So Sunday's a wash because
you're feeling sad.
You're at home already in your mind, right? And so it's go just to get home, only to be back in the routine. We lose a day of vacation every holiday you go on.
Well, and even at the beginning of your vacation, you leave Friday at 5. You're not really into vacation mode until probably Monday, Tuesday, because you're still in that work mode. You know, is this person going to cover for me? What about this? What about that? What about? And finally, by Tuesday night, Wednesday, you're thinking, okay, well, I can't do anything about it now. I'm at the lake or wherever you are.
Right.
And so you really, on a 2-week vacation, you probably really only get 10 days, because by the end of the second week, you're winding up again. 3 more sleeps and I'm back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.